No food, no help, no signal. Just a broken man versus the mountain. The icy wind howled across the Andes as Jack Harrington stood at the edge of a sheer drop. Behind him, white mountains stretched like silent gods. He had trained years for this solo climb, filming every moment for a documentary that he hoped would inspire others to face their fears. But inspiration wasn't on his mind right now. Survival was. 3 days ago, a sudden blizzard had swept through while he was crossing a narrow ridge. His satellite phone was knocked from his hand and lost in the snow. His tent was blown off the cliff, taking half his gear with it. Now, with only a few protein bars, a nearly empty thermos, and a cracked GPS device, Jack had one goal: get back to base camp alive. He carefully stepped across a frozen ledge, every muscle trembling. One slip would mean a fall of thousands of feet. His left boot was soaked from falling into a hidden crevice the night before, and frostbite had already begun numbing his toes. But Jack didn't stop. "I didn't come here to die," he whispered to himself. "I came here to live louder." He climbed higher, toward a known cave that could shelter him overnight. Snowflakes lashed his face, turning his beard into ice. Each breath felt like inhaling knives. As he reached the cave, his heart sank. It was already occupied. Inside lay a half-buried body, another climber, frozen stiff, face pale and eyes shut. The gear bag was intact. Jack hesitated, then carefully took a thermal blanket and a flare from the stranger's pack. "I'm sorry," he said softly, "but I'm not ready to join you yet." He lit a small fire and wrapped himself tightly. Memories of his sister flashed in his mind. He had promised her he'd return. Her words echoed. "Don't let pride kill you. Know when to fight and when to survive." The next morning, Jack woke to a sound that made his blood freeze. Not the wind, not snow. A rumble, an avalanche. Jack leaped from the cave as the mountain above cracked and released a thunderous wall of snow. He ran sideways across the slope, just as the avalanche roared down, sweeping past his heels and swallowing the cave hole. He fell, tumbling down a 30-foot slope, landing hard against a rock. Pain screamed through his shoulder, dislocated. Gritting his teeth, he slammed it against the stone. Crack! It popped back in. He screamed, then laughed. "I'm still alive, you cold bastard," he muttered to the mountain. Blood dripped from his nose, his arm barely moved, and the temperature had dropped below 20 degrees. And yet, he stood up. He was only halfway down the mountain. The hardest part was yet to come. Jack's body ached with every step as he limped along a razor-thin ridge. His shoulder throbbed, fingers barely moved, and his eyes had started to blur. He checked his GPS. No signal, just blinking red. The battery was dying. So was he. But he didn't stop. Every footstep was a choice. Surrender or survive. He chose to keep moving. Ahead, the path dropped sharply. He remembered from earlier maps. A deep glacier crevice lay beyond. He'd need to cross it to reach the forest trail that led to the base camp. But the ice bridge was thin and cracked. He dropped to his knees and crawled across. Halfway through, he heard a loud crack. The ice gave way. He fell. Jack landed hard, sliding down into the heart of the glacier. Cold surrounded him like a coffin. The world turned blue, and time seemed to stop. He was trapped between walls of ancient ice, a jagged spike just inches from his spine. For a moment, he lay still, breathing heavy, staring upward through the narrow crack he'd fallen through. Snowflakes drifted above like falling stars. Was this it? Would he die alone, forgotten in the cold? But then, deep inside his mind, he heard his sister's voice again. "Don't die in silence. fight back, scream, live. With his last strength, Jack screamed. Not in fear, in defiance. He used his crampons to claw into the ice wall. Every inch upward felt like lifting a mountain. His gloves tore, skin bled, but he didn't stop. After an hour of agony, he pulled himself out, collapsing on the snow like a broken statue. Above him, storm clouds gathered. A blizzard was coming. Jack could barely see, but he recognized the terrain. He was close to the tree line. That meant he was within 5 kilometers of the emergency shelter. But before he could take another step, something growled. From the trees, a lone gray wolf emerged, thin, wounded, and starving. It limped like Jack did, eyes locked on him. For a second, both man and beast just stared. Survivors, rivals, strangers sharing the same mountain hell. Jack raised his arms, yelled, and hurled a rock. The wolf snarled but backed away. It wasn't worth the fight. As it disappeared into the mist, Jack collapsed to his knees again. But this time, he smiled. If even that beast doesn't want me, I must still have some fight left. By late evening, Jack saw it. The emergency flag. A thin red cloth tied to a post. Behind it, the wooden walls of a snow shelter. He stumbled forward, kicked the door open, and fell inside. Safe. Inside was a radio, food rations, and a heater. His hands shook as he turned the dial. Mayday. This is Jack Harrington. Solo climb. Coordinates 43.9 by 72.1. I made it to Shelter 9. Injured. Alive. Over. Static. Then, Jack, you're alive? We've been tracking the beacon. We're sending a rescue team now. Jack leaned back, tears welling in his frozen eyes. For the first time in a week, he allowed himself to rest.